I don't even know how to follow that. So thanks. I'm actually really honored to be here this morning with you. And we were standing backstage talking a little bit this morning. A great friend and personal mentor of mine said, you know you're in the right room of people when you look down and everybody's got a different pair of shoes on. Because they all look at things very differently and have different perspectives. And everybody in the room had a very different pair of shoes on. So I said, okay, well, if nothing else, I can learn something from these folks this morning. How many of you in here have Twitter? How many of those same people have tweeted more than a dozen times while you're at this conference? Oh, wow. There's like 5 hands in the room. So if you want, now's a good time to do that. You can use my handle, which is @TriStarter, because I love triathlons, and I love doing starting things. You can use the ULI Fall hashtag, and that way when people in other communities are trying to figure out what the heck is going on at this conference, they can follow it, which is what I did the past couple days, and there was only like a couple dozen things out there, so it was hard to understand globally what the heck was going on. You had to be here, which is great if you're here, but it's not so great if you're not here and you're not getting all that information. I was in Berlin a couple months ago and came across this on the wall.
Great. That's good.
It hit me so hard right in the face that what we were doing with OneSpark, which I'll talk about in a minute, and crowdfunding, and the power of that from a community standpoint, the power of the crowd, it just hit me so hard that every single time I've spoken since then, I don't care if it's in like a Friday morning stand-up meeting with my team, like if it's here on the stage, wherever it is, I've used this because it's such a powerful message. So I'm going to tell you a short story about how the heck I got here, hopefully not bore you with that, and then talk a little bit about crowdfunding. Another question on crowdfunding, how many of you know what crowdfunding is? Cool, hands up, keep them up, keep them up. How many of those people that know what it is have contributed to a crowdfunding campaign? How many have contributed more than a dozen times? Yep, that's about right, another 5 people. I've had a love-hate relationship with business for a long time, ever since I was a kid. That's not actually me, but I felt like that growing up. My first business was selling mangoes on a street corner in Miami with my buddy named Manny. Can't make that up either, but I learned a very valuable business lesson at that point. When a cop came up to us and said, hey, where are you guys getting your mangoes from? And Manny took off running, it was the value of understanding, make sure you know who you're in business with, and you're doing a good job vetting those people. Since then, I've done a whole bunch of different things, tech startups. My favorite that always pops out on here is a cat bed and breakfast. Somehow we sold that. That's a whole nother story. Nonprofits, a t-shirt company, launch agencies, drywall companies, all sorts of different things. So, you know, I've had a lot of really, really rapid fire experience in a variety of different businesses, if you will. And I live here. Not actually in that building, but I live in Jacksonville, Florida. And I spent time in the corporate world for 5 years. I got out of that because I was about 215 pounds, miserable, and they put me into an office where I was facing a freight elevator after I came back from a weekend doing business for them in Mexico. I was like, that's it, I can't do this anymore, I need to get out. And I left 6 months later. I was sitting on my couch because I had lost the other job that I went to, which was going to be you know, my brilliant savior in solar energy. And that didn't work out. And I found myself in this city looking around going, what the hell am I doing? Like, this sucks. This place is decrepit. There's nothing here. There's nothing going on. There's not a lot of activity. And I was really trying to be positive about it, but man, it was really, really hard. So something hit me. I was like, wait a second, like, why do I have to go anywhere? Why do I have to go to another city? Why do I have to plug into another ecosystem that's got great infrastructure that's already created? Like, aren't we in this wonderfully connected world today where we can do anything from anywhere? Like, shouldn't it be that simple? If you look at Jacksonville in a different light, it's a gorgeous place. We've got this gorgeous river. We've got these wonderful lights at night. It's a really great community feel. Sure, it's really spread out, but there's wonderful pockets of history that are there. We've had major industries like the automotive industry, movie industry, all sorts of things come from Jacksonville. And so we realized if we were going to do something, we had to do something that included these 4 components. It would be open to everybody, because that's the only way you get the power of the crowd. It had to really, truly be grassroots and independent. It couldn't be that we just went somewhere and plugged something into this market or ecosystem. And we had to be able to give the people in the public the ability to enact change themselves, and then some sort of compelling reason to participate in that discussion. Enter OneSpark. OneSpark was the world's first crowdfunding festival. Now, what the heck does that mean? We'll talk about that. We launched OneSpark with our own crowdfunding campaign. Ironically, I hit the button from 30,000 feet to raise $90,000 on Kickstarter while flying across the country to go listen to people talk at the ULI Global Culture of Innovation Forum out in San Diego a little over a year ago. So this all somehow tied back in. 30 days later, we had raised $107,000, which, by all means is not a tremendous amount of money to ULI or real estate development. But for us, in 30 days, we said, screw this, we're going to go do this ourselves, figure out a way to make an impact, get some seed funding, and just go. Because we wanted to create change in the community that we lived in and actually build a place that we wanted to participate in, rather than just flying out to another city and moving there. Here's a quick video that explains what OneSpark is.
It's founded on the belief that game changers can come from dorm rooms, garages, or small studios, basically anywhere.
OneSpark is the world's first live crowdfunding festival, and for 5 days in April, downtown Jacksonville will be overwhelmed with creators from all around the world.
OneSpark is a great opportunity for creators to show what they've been working on to hundreds of thousands of people.
There's 2 things that you need to see your idea through. You need support and believers, and you need funding. And the funding aspect is usually pretty hard to get, but we've created a platform that makes it easy for the general public to support your idea.
We're inviting people from art, science, music, technology to come and showcase their most amazing projects and interact directly with the public. In doing so, they're going to have a chance to get the public to vote on their ideas and their projects. And when they do that, they have a chance to get access to $250,000 in a guaranteed crowd fund.
OneSpark gives that platform for artists, scientists, developers to give them a level playing field to say, we're all out here, we're showing you what we got, and we just want you to come along for the ride.
Anyone can register to showcase an idea at any stage of their process. Sketches for a huge mural, songs for a debut album, a new app, video game, robotics, even an idea for a new medical invention. Anything. Once registered, you can preview venues and find the venue to best showcase your idea. During the event, attendees can give in any amount to your project right there on the spot. $5, $50, $5,000, it's all up to them. And of course, everyone has a chance of getting a percentage of the $250,000 crowd fund, just from attendees voting on your idea. If you get 10% of the vote, you would walk away with $25,000. Register, showcase, get funded. For complete rules, go to b1spark.com/creators. Registration deadline, January 31st, 2013.
So we showed this last year, and we got creators from all over the place. The reason for art, music, science, tech, and this year we're adding innovation is because if you think about it, people that are artists, musicians, the uber creatives, some reason they want to be on the other side of the fence. They want to be people that are startups in tech, and they want to participate in that. And people that are in science, tech, and innovation, they love communities that have culture. Well, who drives that? The ultimate creatives, the artists, the musicians, the gangster gardeners, right? Like, these people are the ones that are making those communities great places to be. So we said, well, crap, let's just throw them all together for 5 days and see what the heck happens. For those of you that don't know Jacksonville, this is about a square mile, 25, 26 square blocks in our downtown, where we had we just took it over. We said, let's do this creator zone, and at night we'll have an entertainment district for all these people to go out and participate. Mind you, the venues were anywhere. Anywhere could be a venue. Public spaces, parks, coffee shops, Class A office space with millions of square feet. Any of these places could be venues to host these actual creators. And they did the matchmaking themselves, okay? When we did that, we also gave them an opportunity to get up on their own stage out into the public and talk about what they were doing. So if you're familiar with crowdfunding, you know things like Kickstarter, Indiegogo. In the real estate world, there's Fundrise, these different places. And the bottom line is it's really hard to interact with people that are online. It's way more easy to walk around here and say, hey, nice to meet you. Tell me about why you're doing what you're doing. So we took crowdfunding off the web. We actually went backwards, right? We went more analog because you can cut through all the noise and BS that's out there today by just communicating with people face-to-face, direct and in person. We also, again, empowered the public by giving them the ability to vote, right? And voting here actually mattered. There was a dollar value associated with each of the votes. So you saw creators coming up with all sorts of different unique ways to promote themselves. It gave them a passionate way to engage and talk about their story in the community. And the venues that were hosting them, guess what? They gave a shit too. They really wanted to promote these people. So we had a really lean team, but it exponentially increased our voice because we had 60+ venues that were communicating on our behalf, and even more importantly, on the behalf of the creators. Downtown Jacksonville all of a sudden looked like this. How many people have been to Jacksonville? How many people have ever seen it look like that when you're walking around downtown? Yeah, nobody. It looked like this. It was amazing. There was Saturday night, and like people couldn't get around the city. You talk about congestion, like it was congested, man. We couldn't get places. It was phenomenal. We ended up with over 900 creators and co-creators and over 130,000 people in the first year. It was crazy. Those 130,000 plus people made it the most significant event in our city since the Super Bowl. We're an 8-month-old startup at that time. Tell me we can't change something in our own community. By the way, they came from all over the world. So now, what does this do for our city as an impact? Well, I'm back on a plane to Berlin next Friday to talk with people in Berlin about doing OneSpark in Europe. Early conversations, but who knows where it goes. That all came from this, and they're going, hey, where's Jacksonville? It must be an amazing city. You guys had OneSpark. You created OneSpark. Like, yeah, it's fantastic. Just come here during those 5 days, right? But eventually, that's going to change. We ended up with about 60 venues. Our Skyway, which is a mode of transportation in and around the downtown area, had the most rides per day in years. 42,000 rode the Skyway during that period of time. 100% of our sponsors are coming back this year. So if you know anybody that wants to sponsor OneSpark, tell them to see me. We'll get in touch with them. But there's 4 key points that I want to make about crowdfunding. And we'll talk about this more in the breakout, but there's 4 points that are really, really important that lead up to a summary. If these things happen, if connectivity trumps everything in the world of innovation, okay, we're more connected today than any other time, and we're going to continue to be more connected. The challenge is figuring out how to break through the noise of connectivity, and sometimes you have to do it in person and build it to be more analog. That's fine. But if connectivity trumps everything in the world of innovation, and validation nowadays, with things like crowdfunding, becomes immediate, real-time, and it's dictating trends rather than following them. And you can do that by things like real-time voting, but real-time contributions of funding is probably even better validation than you're ever going to get with anything else out there. And cities are nothing more than the landscapes for ultimate creatives. And the last 4th point, and if leadership becomes the byproduct of a very simple concept of action, I told somebody I was going to steal that from him, and I totally have, because it was the best thing I've heard. Fortunately, he's a mentor with OneSpark. But if leadership is the byproduct of a simple concept of action, then crowdfunding now has the ability to be the world's platform for doers and dictate on our own terms where we spend money. Imagine a world where years from now, we're spending money ahead of taxing. Think about that for a second. So if I'm in a city like Jacksonville and I'm struggling with getting certain tax money and tax dollars and state dollars to be focused into a community to develop that area, well, I'm just going to launch a crowdfunding campaign. I'm going to say, screw you, I'm going to go do this myself, and I'm going to be done with it in 30 days. That is ultimately transformational in the way that we go through our lives and the way that we have the ability to dictate what happens in our world, in our community, in our ecosystem, and on our block. If you don't believe me about crowdfunding being pretty big, well, these are a few years ago as to the number of crowdfunding platforms by category that are out there, right? So you have a bunch of different types: lending-based, donations, rewards, and now equity-based crowdfunding platforms. And the SEC is coming out with the rules. There's still a short period of time that they're walking through with saying what those are going to look like. But make no mistake, in the very near future, people will be able, that are non-accredited investors, to invest in their own community with their own money to make things happen. Almost $3 billion by 2012. We're on pace to do $5.1 billion in 2013 on a global scale with crowdfunding platforms. You notice a trend, that number continues to double. Crowdfunding is now the world's platform for doers. Thank you.